Have you ever experienced something so shocking, so unjust, that it completely turned your world upside down in a matter of minutes? Imagine boarding your flight, ready to relax and enjoy your journey, when suddenly you're questioned, doubted, and treated as though you don't belong. This is the true story of what happens when a black girl's first class ticket is questioned, and one phone call later, the entire cabin crew is fired. Meet Taylor, an ambitious, confident, and successful young woman in her mid-20s. She had just landed a high-paying job in the tech industry and had been working nonstop for months. Taylor was proud of her achievements, but like everyone, she needed a break. She'd been planning this vacation for months and had finally saved enough to treat herself to a first-class seat. It was her chance to relax and recharge. It was an ordinary flight, crossing the country to a beautiful destination. She'd booked the first-class ticket to make the journey more comfortable, to enjoy the luxury she'd worked so hard for. But what should have been an ordinary, stress-free trip was about to take a turn that would change her life forever. As Taylor boarded the plane, her first-class ticket in hand, she felt a little more than usual excitement. She was eager to unwind, kick back, and enjoy the flight. She stepped into the cabin and walked down the aisle toward her seat. The warm glow of the luxurious interior of the plane contrasted with the deep breaths Taylor took in, preparing herself for the break she so desperately needed. But as she walked, something felt off. The stewardess who was supposed to help her settle into her seat glanced at her ticket, just a little too long. First class? The stewardess mumbled, her eyes scanning the ticket like it was a mistake. Taylor smiled politely, not letting the odd behavior bother her too much. Yes, it's first class, she replied, with a friendly tone. The stewardess didn't smile back or respond. Instead, she whispered to another attendant, pointing toward Taylor's seat. Taylor couldn't hear the words, but she saw the glances exchanged, the momentary confusion on their faces. It felt like she was being watched, scrutinized, as though they didn't believe she belonged there. Taylor thought to herself, is this really happening? It felt surreal. Was it her imagination, or was she being judged because of the color of her skin? She finally sat down in her seat, the plush fabric of the chair a stark contrast to the tension building in the air around her. As she looked around, she noticed a few passengers glancing at her, curious, judgmental looks that made her feel even more out of place. She tried to push the thought away. She was here, and she had a right to be here. It was just a seat, after all. She wasn't going to let it ruin her trip. But as the plane began to taxi down the runway, the tension didn't let up. As Taylor settled into her seat, trying to relax, she noticed Captain John Mercer, a man in his early 50s, wearing the crisp white uniform of the flight crew, walking down the aisle toward the cockpit. But then, as if something had caught his eye, he stopped. He turned his head toward Taylor, his eyes scanning her boarding pass briefly before he turned and continued his way to the front of the plane. It was quick, but Taylor noticed. She noticed the pause, the look. It wasn't just a passing glance. There was something more to it, something that made her stomach churn. Was he questioning her right to be there too? Her mind raced. Why is this happening? She was a paying customer in a first-class seat with a valid ticket. Why was she being treated like an outsider? Could it really be because of her skin color? Could it? Taylor shook her head, trying to calm herself. She wasn't going to let the behavior of one flight crew member ruin her moment of peace. But then things took a turn. A few minutes later, a senior flight attendant approached Taylor. This wasn't the same stewardess who had glanced at her ticket before. This was someone higher up, someone with more authority. The flight attendant walked over to her with a forced smile. "Excuse me, miss," she began, her voice polite but tinged with something Taylor couldn't quite place. "There seems to be an issue with your ticket. Can I just have a quick word with you?" Taken aback, Taylor stood up. "What's the issue?" she asked, trying to remain calm, though her voice had a slight edge to it. "We'll get it sorted, don't worry," the attendant responded, motioning for Taylor to follow her. "Just follow me." Confusion swirled around Taylor as she followed the attendant toward the galley. Her mind raced with thoughts. What was going on? Why was she being singled out? There had to be some mistake. The galley was quiet, and as soon as Taylor stepped inside, she realized things weren't as simple as she'd hoped. One of the other attendants, a middle-aged woman, was speaking urgently into a phone. "Yes, sir. Yes, I understand," the woman was saying. "We'll check into it." Taylor could feel the weight of the situation settling on her shoulders. It was becoming clearer now. Her ticket wasn't just being checked for routine reasons. They didn't believe her ticket was legitimate. She could sense it in the way they moved, the way the flight attendants exchanged glances and whispered to each other. "Excuse me," Taylor finally said, her voice rising with frustration. "What's going on? Is there a problem with my ticket?" The flight attendant didn't respond directly. Instead, she turned back to the phone call. Taylor's blood boiled. Was this really happening? Just then, her phone buzzed in her pocket. It was her best friend, Jenna. Taylor answered quickly, her voice still tense from what was happening. "Taylor, are you okay?" Jenna's voice crackled through the phone. Taylor let out a breath, trying to calm herself. "I don't know. Something is going on here. They're questioning my ticket. I feel like it's because I'm black. This doesn't make sense." The phone went silent for a moment, and then Jenna's voice came through clearly. "Taylor, this is all over the news right now. They've already started making claims. They're accusing you of faking the ticket, and now they're trying to turn the story around. You need to do something about it. Get to the media. This isn't just about a ticket anymore." The weight of Jenna's words hit her like a freight train. Taylor's stomach dropped. This wasn't just a misunderstanding. It was something much deeper. Racial profiling, discrimination. And they were trying to make her the scapegoat. Taylor's mind snapped into focus. She wasn't going to take this sitting down. She wasn't going to let them get away with it. "I'm done with this," Taylor said, her voice firm and resolute. "I'm not leaving this plane until I've spoken to someone higher up." The flight attendants continued to speak amongst themselves, unaware of the fire that was now burning in Taylor. She turned to face them, her eyes blazing with determination. "I need to speak to your supervisor," she demanded. Now, one of the attendants scurried away to find someone in charge. Taylor's hands were shaking, but not from fear, from anger, from the injustice of it all. She wasn't going to let them get away with this. Not now, not ever. While she waited for the supervisor, Taylor made another call, this time to the airline's customer service line. She quickly explained what was happening, making sure to emphasize how she was being treated unfairly. The customer service agent apologized profusely. "We'll investigate this as soon as you land, ma'am. Please stay calm, and we'll make sure this gets sorted." When the flight finally landed, Taylor was met by airline security and a manager. "I understand you've had an issue with the flight crew," the manager asked, trying to sound sympathetic, though it was clear that the airline was already in damage control mode. "I'm done with this," Taylor said, her voice steady. "You've humiliated me in front of the entire crew. I'm taking this to the media. This is discrimination, and you will pay for it." The moment Taylor stepped into the terminal, her story began to make waves. Within hours, it was all over the news. Taylor's experience quickly became a symbol of racial injustice and discrimination in the workplace. The airline was forced to make a public apology, and by the time she reached her destination, the entire flight crew, including the captain, had been fired. The public response was swift and overwhelming. Taylor's bravery and determination to stand up for herself sparked conversations about race, power, and privilege in everyday situations. The airline made sweeping changes to their policies, and their entire crew underwent sensitivity training. In the weeks that followed, Taylor became a symbol of resilience, proving that even in the face of injustice, you have the power to demand accountability. Her story was a reminder to everyone that no one should be made to feel less than, no matter where they sit, who they are, or the color of their skin. Taylor's victory didn't just change her life, it changed the conversation about race, privilege, and justice in the workplace. It reminded the world that standing up for what's right is the only way to create real change. If you're part of the Black Visionaries family, hit that like button right now and subscribe for more drop-in stories like this one. You won't believe what happens next when the CEO gets involved. If this story shocked you, trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. Comment below and share your thoughts, and make sure to turn on the bell so you're always the first to know when a new video drops. Let's keep the conversation going, and don't forget to share this with friends. Let's grow the family together. Catch you in the next one.